We literally have everything that we want to say written up on this board, and it still was so disjointed.
Yeah. We don't know what we're doing. We're starting a podcast in 2025.
Yeah.
We're
Everybody's
15 years late
for this.
We're like 15 years late.
Everybody, I walk up and down the street and people are begging me, Jamie, I want to know your insights. I need your wisdom. Please make a podcast. You could be new to the space. Men are dying to have more insight in how to be masculine.
We need more men who have figured it out, telling us how to figure it out.
We need more solutions.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to 3%. We're your hosts, Jamie Haig.
And I'm Blake Roberts.
We're two best friends, fathers, husbands, and just two guys trying to figure it out.
We're also therapists, which is probably a pretty important part.
That's true.
And we believe that at our best, people are 97% honest with themselves and others. And it's that hidden 3% of emotions, needs, desires, and behaviors that we keep to ourselves that keep us bound to shame and loneliness, from which many of our issues stem.
Each week on this podcast, we'll interview leaders in the fields of psychology, theology, arts, and athletics to explore holistic masculinity. We're not here to tell you the man you need to be, but we are here to help you explore what gets in the way of being the man you want to be.
We're going to help you develop courage and give you the tools to share your 3% in the relationships that matter most so you can more deeply connect with yourself, God, and others. So, pull up a chair.
Let's get into it.
So let's be honest. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
Welcome, everybody, to the very first episode of the 3% podcast, recorded for the 5th try.
We have tried so many ways. If this is our 5th try, that feels generous to us. We have tried a lot of times to record this, and now we are 2 weeks away from the launch of our podcast and trying yet again. So
after we've already recorded like 10 episodes, we're now doing the intro. Anyways, we're glad you're here. I'm Blake Roberts.
I'm Jamie Haig.
And this podcast, this brand, this community, 3%, the name, comes from this armchair theory that Jamie and I came up with when we met in 12-step recovery years ago, which is that at our absolute best, we are 97% honest with each other. And it's the 3% of our emotions, needs, desires, behaviors that we keep to ourselves, which keep us stuck in shame and loneliness, from which many of our issues stem. And that concept of 3% became a way of, it really just became a permission slip for us to be more honest with each other, which helped us then to connect deeper with ourselves, with God, with others, with our family, with our friends, with our clients. And when we dreamed about creating a space or an offering like this for men to do the same, we were like, oh, the name is right there. We've been using it this whole time.
That's right.
So 3% is a men's mental health community, and we're really glad and really grateful for you and for your friends and your family that you're even listening to this. Because if we're honest, as men, we, especially today, it's so easy to struggle with loneliness and shame and to be disconnected from ourselves and others, to be in addiction and just to like feel generally stuck.
Yeah, that's such a familiar word. When we were talking about it and thinking through what's the real problem here, loneliness comes to mind, because loneliness feels like an epidemic, which Blake has written some about. But generally, what do people feel when they come to meet with us as a therapist? A lot of them have a hard time even naming it, and maybe that's you. And we kind of landed on this idea of it might just feel like you're stuck. That could be what the problem is for you.
Yeah. And so that's the purpose of this space, is to help you discover what is leading you to feeling stuck, and to help give you tools to become more of the man who you want to be, and the friend you want to be, and the father you want to be. And
So why are we doing this? Well, Blake and I met in recovery together and eventually became trained therapists. So we are in private practice, both of us, working with men and women on these issues every day. And we are just passionate about, like Blake said, the permission slip of 3%. And what we mean by that is often you can find Blake or I calling each other just to say, hey, I need to share my 3% with you, which was how we started learning how to be vulnerable, maybe for the first time ever for each of us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're in it with you. This is not something that we came up with as an idea for other people. This is something that worked for us. We hope that that feels authentic to you. We are both husbands and dads. We have littles right now,
Mm-hmm.
year and a half, and I've got a 3.5 and a 9-month-old. And we're both wounded healers, which is a term that we heard from a therapist we love named Dan Allender, meaning we both have stories of trauma that we needed to heal from. And this has been a real tool for us in that journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so out of that, Jamie and I, we'll probably talk about this more in a future episode, but you're good with the dates. When did we go to the cabin where this first came to life?
Yeah, April of 2023.
Yeah. So we are both entrepreneurial and knew that we wanted to do something together. Like, let's take this friendship that we have and figure out how we can turn it into something beyond our therapy practices. And we thought that was going to look like a marketing and creative agency for therapists.
That's
and
right.
We went on a retreat to plan that business. And God made it very, very apparent to both of us. He probably was already stirring it in our hearts, but made it very apparent that we could have done that and it could have been cool and it would have been good, but it was not what was really on our hearts. What was really on our hearts was to take some of what we've experienced and not create something new, but just create something different in this space of, could we say, men's work. And so that's where the idea first came to life. And we've been dreaming about it and planning it slowly but surely since then.
Right.
And it has morphed and changed. And we've had so many amazing friends that are listening to this episode, you know who you are, who have encouraged us and helped us think through, like, what even is this thing that we wanted to do? And eventually, as you become a part of the community and follow along, we'll have more offerings in the future. But right now, we're launching with this podcast because we wanted to provide a space, whether you're in the car on your, what is the average, like 35, 40-minute commute now?
Yeah.
Or you're working out or you're mowing the yard. We just wanted to provide a space to help you develop honesty and vulnerability so that you can engage deeper with your own story and in the relationships that you are involved in and that are the most important to you. So what that's going to look like on this podcast is that each week, every Monday, you're going to get an episode that is either from Jamie and I, where we are sharing our own stories vulnerably, and then also tools and evidence-based practices that we use in work with our clients that we see help to be able to just give you some practical tools to incorporate in your life. And when it's not both of us talking, we're going to be interviewing leaders in the fields of theology, psychology, the arts, and sports to explore and learn from them what it means and what it looks like to pursue a more holistic masculinity, or to be more vulnerable, or to learn more about your story in ways that we hope can be both encouraging and practical for you to put language to some things that may already live in you, but you may not even be aware of.
Right.
And to then give you some, okay, well, here's what you do with that.
Right. And we'll be learning alongside you as we interview those people. The way that it
Very
has
much
felt
so.
so far has just been so encouraging to us, and we hope it'll be encouraging to you. And part of the success of what we hope for in the 3% community is that you will feel just that, like you have a new community, that you're learning alongside us and others as we all seek to grow and break these generational patterns and create deeper relationships with ourselves, God, and others, and we'll even determine what it looks like. We'll help explain what we mean by what does it look like to create a deeper relationship with yourself and God and others.
Mm-hmm.
And what does it mean to break a generational pattern? And what does it mean to become self-aware?
Mm-hmm.
These are all things that Blake and I have become comfortable with the language of, and we're trying to be really aware as we talk to you and talk to each other of what do all of these things mean? Because even breaking those down can be helpful as we try to grow with you.
Mm.
So,
Yeah. As we have been dreaming about this, Jamie and I have been very intentional of not creating another thing that is saying, hey, we found the solution. And if you listen to our trailer episode, you'll hear our little joke about that in the beginning,
right.
where we're not saying we found the one solution that works and follow our lead and you can step into the healing that will transform your life forever. But we do have some things that have worked for us.
Right.
And we have met some amazing people that have different things that work for them. And we want to create a space to start that conversation so that the biggest hope, I would say, maybe is for you, listener, wherever you are, to be more courageous in your relationship with yourself, with God, and with others. Because we have firsthand experienced that is incredibly difficult to do at like a real deep, authentic level. And it's incredibly difficult because it brings us face to face with our pain and our discomfort and our vulnerability.
Which is why we always use addictions. We're avoiding
Right.
exactly what we're talking about. It's why we call it courage. We don't know what courage looks like for you. We're determining what courage looks like for us. And we don't want to tell you what that courage is going to look like, but we do know that we are all very good at avoiding
Yes.
relationship with ourselves. So
Yeah.
we're looking at helping you and helping ourselves develop the courage to dive into that relationship.
Yeah. And you'll hear us talk about our stories and our journeys in 12-step recovery from addiction. But if you're listening to this and you're not somebody that is in recovery from an addiction or in a 12-step program, don't think that this isn't for you, because we're just sharing our story because it's our story. But the purpose of this podcast is to go beyond, and it's not just for people in recovery, but what we would say is like, we're all recovering from something.
Right.
We're all running from something and running to something. And we just want to create conversations to discover what we're running from and what we're running toward. And
to that point, Blake and I have always been very passionate, since we got in 12-step recovery, we've been passionate about bringing the best parts of 12-step to people who don't feel like they qualify for any 12-step program.
Yeah.
Because where do you get those kind of deep, vulnerable connections if you're not in a 12-step program?
Right.
So like Blake said, if you're listening to this and you're not in one of those and you don't feel like you qualify for one of those programs, we're really glad you're here, because our hope is that we can give you the community that we found in that, in a place that doesn't require you to necessarily qualify for that.
Yeah, we're taking our experiences in 12-step recovery. We're taking our experiences in church, growing up our whole life, in men's groups, and we're taking our experience as therapists and sitting with people in the depths of their stories, and we're combining those three things and turning them into a space or an offering that will be very imperfect for you to hopefully glean something from our experience in those three spaces that can help you become more of the man or woman who you truly want to be.
Right. Yeah, we're not going to tell you the man or woman that you need to be. That will never be our approach. We do in this podcast, in what we offer in the future, in writing, we do want to help you explore what gets in the way of being the man or woman that you want to be.
So should we tell them how we're going to end each episode?
Yeah. There's a way that all of the meetings that Blake and I went to ended in 12-step, and we adapted something from that, and it's how we'll close every episode of our podcast, which is, We're glad you're here. Keep coming back. You're worth it.
So let's be honest. Let's be honest.